passar pelo ribeiro, onde às vezes me debruço, fito-me alguém corpo inteiro, dobrado como um soluço. Pupilas negras tão laças, meu amor.
We are here at Fácil Festival, and the first thing I want and have to say is thank you. Thank you to the organizers for making this happen. We are living in a very strange time, and we all have to do our best to get culture to people again. And I think the organizers did a marvelous job here. So thank you, first of all, for that. As I said, I'm going to introduce you all in a minute. My name is Gerriet Krishna Sharma. I'm here on behalf of the Katarina Gurska Institute for Artistic Research in Madrid. And I'm also very thankful to the region of Castellón that supports this kind of research, debate, and research in the arts. And we all find that it's the time to go much deeper into the subject, and that's actually one of the reasons why we're doing this series of conversations during the day, and we are happy to start this. I'm going to introduce her in one line. So Reinhold Friedl, I'm very happy to sit with you today. He's like composer, pianist, had a member for many years of Zeitkratzer Ensemble, and also guest professor at Katarina Gurska Institute. Denzel Russell, born in New York, now working a lot in Europe, mostly at Cologne at the moment. You were trained as in the fine arts, started in ceramics and glass blowing, and nowadays you're doing a lot of neon installation and also DJing and producing tracks. And Verena Lercher, she was trained as an actress in one of the best schools there is in Germany, and you were working off theater and in ensembles for the past 15 years in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. And only a couple of years ago, you decided not to do this and started media art. And all of you are performing tonight at the festival in different positions, and maybe we're going to talk a little bit what you're going to do, but this is not the main reason why we are here. At the moment, we want to talk a little bit about the subject of innovation and transdisciplinary work in the arts, which is a very weird subject, I know, but as it is stressed pretty much during the last years, all this talking about innovation, new music, new influences in the arts, there always is this word of interdisciplinary work. And I think it's probably time to shed some light on from your perspective, from your practice, what this actually means to you, and if it does make sense, or if we probably have to talk about something completely different, and then we're going to talk about something absolutely different if it's necessary. So I would start here with you, Verena, if I might. As I said before, you've been an actress for a very long time, then you stopped, and now you're doing performances with all kinds of media. And I just like to ask you if interdisciplinary work makes any sense to you.
Actually, for me, it's not really clear what interdisciplinarity is really, because From my point of view, or what I experienced in theater, if you say like you do a theater play and then you involve video and sound, is this already interdisciplinarity, or is it just a combination, combining things, combining art forms, patchworking, and what does it really mean? So, I think if you really work interdisciplinarily, you really need to leave your comfort zone in a way.
All right.
So in this installation performance I do with Denzel, I think we both really needed to leave our comfort zones, and this causes also like to be confronted with a lot of unexpected things. Things you really do not know, and you like, I think in the moment you like really recognize and accept this unexpected things, these unexpected moments, and you expose yourself to them, something really interesting can arise. So, and then it starts to get like maybe kind of something new.
So what I get is that with your background, you would say, okay, there are classical productions where for centuries people were working together, like with light, with with speech, with all kinds of scenography. But this doesn't necessarily mean that something's really shared. It's just like you were using this harsh word like patchworking. So I get from this that you would say, out of your instinct and from your practice, this transdisciplinary work is something else, and this is probably to do with leaving comfort zone. Is it? All right. So, Denzel, what would you say?
I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of a difficult question, but for me, it's like I view it as it's kind of just human nature in a way, you know, to just have this like idea to continually keep exploring, I guess, depending on your personality. For me, I've always been just interested in things, you know, like whether it's cooking or, I don't know, mopping the floor. It's like, how can I, you know, combine these things in some sort of way? Not saying that
Cooking
like...
and mopping the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, you know, like I wouldn't serve you that sort of meal, you know, I'm just as a weird example. But for me, it's just like, it's pretty natural to continue just working through different processes. So I never really think about the term as a term, so to say. It's just kind of natural, you know.
Yeah, so you would say this is actually happening all the time?
Constantly.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's, you wouldn't say this is something, you said, yeah, well, you do it in life, so it's not necessarily something that is inherent to arts, but it's happening because sometimes artists are human beings.
Yeah, I mean, naturally. And like, of course, there's going to be several moments where you do have to leave your comfort zone, you know, like working a minimum wage job to survive, you know, like, sure, you probably have a master's degree in engineering, but the economy is like so-and-so, so now you have to do this and this, you know, like that in itself to me is kind of an interdisciplinary practice.
Okay.
But, you know, shouldn't be described as that.
Yeah,
Just as nature, yeah.
Right. Reinhold. It's like
It's such a big question.
yeah, but I mean, that's what I was saying.
Yes, I have a few ideas about it, about interdisciplinarity. Well, I think about myself as a musician. I'm clearly a musician. But what is a musician? If you go on stage and you perform, you are clearly a performer, so you're already interdisciplinary.
All right.
Well, there's a famous musicology things where you say, well, when does Beethoven Appassionata start? It starts when the hand goes up, and it does not start with the first sound, probably. But it's a philosophical question about the notion of work also.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, it's a very interesting point. I just remembered that the artistic research has kind of invented in explicit form by Pierre Schaeffer in Paris in 40-something. And his approach was to have only music and to have nothing else. That means pure listening. That means electronic music and nothing to see, but just to listen to the objects without even with forgetting how they have been made. So if you record a train, you should not think about the train anymore. You should listen to the pure sound.
Yeah, that's phenomenology, but yeah.
But it's also that's the guy who started with the group de recherche musicale, so musical research. That's an interesting point. It's just a point. But the interesting connection was because I just thought about him because you brought in out of the comfort zone. And the concept of Pierre Schaeffer was to bring people out of the comfort zone. Actually, that was the philosophy of the group, which came from, we are in Spain, from Ignacio de Loyola. It came directly from the Jesuits to say, people, you have to do what you cannot do. That's how François Weil became a composer, and that's how other people became organizers who knew already to compose, and that's why everybody left the group so quickly, because they didn't like it. so there was no, it's an example for music research outside of the comfort zone, and to have this idea of a complete human being who has to do things that he cannot do, is not able to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a brilliant example. For me, as a composer and sound artist, is always the question, do you really, are we talking really about new things in the way that we produce them all the time, or is it something that we're naturally doing, but at the same time in music and in the arts, it's of course always that you come constantly to the point where you have to jump, into some unknown territory, and this is what I find a little bit strange when people talk about these terms like interdisciplinarity and innovation and combination, because most of the time we are entering foreign terrain, and this is most of the time, I would say, quite uncomfortable to most people. But research in the arts, would you say, Verena, that what you're doing now, you're working more into this direction where you really combine different influences than before, or is it just that you didn't want to do theater anymore?
Actually, I think that but this is just really my very personal opinion. I think when I say combination, I think the time I worked in theater, they just combined those art forms, but they did not really, were not interested to really merge them in a way. This is what I meant by combination. What I'm doing now is, actually, I cannot really name it. It's just, I was not anymore interested in do this, and there is the video, and there is the sound, and there is you have a microphone, and nobody really knows what it means to wear a microphone on stage, because immediately your sound is amplified. It's not your own voice anymore, and this is already then in a way working interdisciplinarily. So it is.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is. So it's actually that what I wanted. What I did not want it anymore. So I was more interested in something else. I actually do not know what it is. It's like it comes up. It's like searching for something I actually in the moment do not know.
Well, the performance you're going to give in a couple of hours is with 16 turntables, using them in a very different way. So you are a DJ, you're DJing a lot, and so how was it for you to be confronted to being part of an installation? Would you describe yourself as a performer, or?
No, I've never thought of myself as a performer.
So you step inside this installation and
it's a complete different zone for me. And this in itself would be, a perfect example of this term. For me, I do DJ often, and for me, these turntables have a specific type of nostalgia. I've grown up with them. They've just been in my household. It's I go to my aunt's house. It's they're there, put on some soca, calypso records, and I have a different relationship with them. So to be interacting with them so many of them, of course. Like I've never been around 16 turntables before, you know. To interact with them, it's a whole new world, you know, like these different possibilities open up. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's great. You know, at first it was like, whoa, okay, this is not my comfort zone at all. But, you know, gradually as we've continued to develop it, yeah, it's grown on me. I'm enjoying it.
So I kind of detect that you have to take a risk to make this happen.
Yeah, but I think most things start like that, you know,
Yeah,
I would imagine. Yeah.
Sure. So you're going to have a solo piano performance tonight. So is it for you? Is that you? I mean, you're doing this for so long, and I've been many of your performances. But is it that you would say now this is the common thread of music that you're following, or you're still researching on something that you absolutely have no clue of? Supervisor is probably going to happen every night, but is there a research aspect in this for you?
Well, what I'm playing tonight is inside piano, and it's a little bit special. Probably it also applies for normal piano or normal instrumentalists, but it implies a lot of research. What can you do inside the piano? How can you play on the strings? And the fact is that it's much more unpredictable than playing on the keys. Well, if Rubinstein goes somewhere and plays Chopin, he also has to adapt to the room, for example.
Sure.
He has to. There is something he has to change. There's some unpredictability always. Perhaps he has a pain in one finger or something like this. You always have this kind of stuff. With inside piano, you have it much stronger because you have another piano. You don't know the piano. You don't know the strings. So you always have to kind of follow the piano. So it sets you in a little unsafe situation, and if you get nervous, you will lose. So
all right,
that's the thing. So you have to go out and you have to say,
that's
okay,
important
because sometimes you have some techniques where you play on the strings, and in a certain piano, in a certain moment, no sound is coming out of it.
Okay.
So you have a break, but you intended to play a sound. So you have to change the concept of the piece immediately, if you have a concept of a piece, and you're not improvising.
Yeah.
So you have to be pretty aware what's going on. So this is the sportive question also in this sense, out of the comfort zone, you could call it like this, yes.
Yeah. Whether I had to ask this question because I remember some performances and I thought, oh my gosh, how can you repeat this? You know, it's like there's so much going on with this piano, and it had always this momentarily research aspect to me. But my impression was when I saw your rehearsals yesterday, it's like being in a lab. And this is, of course, going on in the arts for a long time, I know, and then everyone is talking about Leonardo da Vinci and you know, researchers and artists are pretty close, but this is very debatable as well. But what I'm interested in is now we are in 2020 and we have all these concepts going on, and there seems to be something that's very different to concept that you probably were trained in. You know, that people really start to re-question their instruments, yeah, or instrumentality of the material they're using. Yeah. So Verena, when you have never been a DJ before.
No.
So how was that? I mean, how is it for you working with these turntables and translucent LPs? Because they are not. You can't really see the tracks, or how do you approach this from your performative perspective?
Of course, as a performer, of course.
That would mean.
Sorry?
That would mean.
Yeah, that would mean that it's I think in a way a total different approach than, for example, Denzel approaches the turntables. And what's for me so interesting is that I can observe him. And I can learn from him. And it's the other way around. When he speaks during the performance, I think he can learn a lot from my experience, and I can help him there out. And still, it gets something very special or something else when I try not to copy him, but I try to learn from him, and then I make it to something to my own in a way. So my approach is, yeah, of course, it's those 16 turntables there. This field is there. We put on our own voices, so we get like really rid of total control. And this is actually maybe you can call this in a way innovation, when you like give up away control in complex situations, and you use this as a principle of investigation. This might maybe lead to innovation. I don't know.
Oh, wow, there's something. So is it probably shifting the focus from action to reaction between you both? I mean,
yeah, actually, I mean, as an actress, I was trained or used to be trained to act.
Yeah.
And in this performance or performances like this, it's more about reacting in an environment you build. So it's less acting, but more reacting. And of course, in a way, you act, but it's more, yeah, it's more about reacting.
All right. Okay. Reinhold, what do you think about, you were mentioning Pierre Schaeffer and, well, the 40s, so when electronic music kind of started, you know, in France, in Germany, and other places, the UK as well. Say that since we brought in what people then later called new media, there's a shift in the way we are approaching instruments, or is it just that we have more possibilities? Because if you mention Bale, it's a, for me, it's always a change of mindset as well, you know, from that started then, or is it just that we are doing the same stuff than hundreds of years ago?
Well, it's a big question again.
I'm sorry, but
so I think,
you know,
well, first we had the extended instrumental techniques. In the case of, especially in the case of piano, to play strange sounds in the piano, it has been clearly influenced from electronic music. What Mario Bertoncini did in the early 60s in Rome with Nuova Consonanza, when he invented the bowing of a piano, and when he invented long sounds inside the piano, he explicitly said that this came from the tape loop, because the tape loop was the thing of the moment. So, what can you do with this fucking instrument? Yeah, because it's this kind of strange thing in between a melodic instrument and a percussion instrument. How can you make it sing? How can you bring long sounds out of it? That was the idea in the 60s. Make a long sound. So, he came from the electronic music and invented new techniques to do, and actually a lot of people did this. The same happened. Why did Lachenmann call his new techniques on instrumental techniques musique concrète instrumentale? Because he thought about it of sound objects and noise objects and things like this. So there's for sure influence from electronic music transferred into the instruments. When it jumps to electronic extensions, it's something else probably. That's something that happened later, where you have all this kind of sensor things that you use, and where you can rework the sound in real time. And you have real electronics working, often with extended techniques, so it makes it broader and goes somewhere.
Yeah, that's a question that we probably can't really answer today. But
and concerning the piano, it changes the sound material, it changes the composition material. So if you ask people like Bertoncini or people out of this musical informal or informal music, how it was also called, they would say that the piece is already the material. So sometimes you discover a really great material, like I can make this sound, and you say, well, I played this sound for 1 hour, that's the material. So you look at all those pieces by Albin Lucier, or you look by pieces of Phil Niblock, and that's exactly what happened. So La Montiang played for 24 hours. You know, is there a piece? Perhaps the sound is already the thing. So
there's a shift into the material. The form is kind of drifting. That was what I was experiencing during your rehearsal yesterday, that you seem to have a clear idea what you're doing, but it's just the form of a theater piece, for example, is not there. You know, it's like almost like a concert, and then it changes to something else, and then you're producing all this sound. And so, Denzel, would you think that producing, now you're producing music as well. This is something that comes out of the possibility that we have with the instruments, or so material, or is it just that we like to? A lot of artists at the moment like to go into the music because it's available. I mean, the instruments. Where is it coming from? Lots of fine art people are doing tracks at the moment.
Yeah, right.
Where is it coming from?
Yeah, it's a pretty tricky question. You know, I guess it kind of depends on like what your focal point is. You know, like where your sort of sonic lens is. You know, for listening. You know, like what you decide to pay attention to. And for people specifically who are trained musically, you know, who have this background, I think they're approaching listening from a different way in terms of the music and the compositions they're producing. But to be coming from a different background, you know, like I guess it depends on specifically what your motive is. You know, like why do you want to produce? Like who are you listening to? You know, like who do you want to be listened to by? You know, and like what elements you're putting into the music. And I think a lot of it also, well, one thing I find really interesting is that there's so many things that remain inaudible, specifically within music. And, you know, like that's the thing I'm curious to see if people are listening to, you know, like these other elements, these like underlying thin, invisible lines that just like kind of weave things together. And like how that translates differently between people who have different practices.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah. So, trying to bring this together. So we have change of instrumentality within the past 100 years. I mean, drastically. That's a point. The materials becomes very important. Let's a little bit talk about this strange notion of research nowadays, and research in the arts. You said before, Reinhold, the group research is one very good example. Why would you say is you know, this artistic research thing in music became so prominent? Have you a theory on this? Because it's everywhere at the moment.
My theory is it was always there. It becomes only more explicit.
Okay.
So if you look at the instrumentation by Strauss and Berlioz, if you look if you look at the well-tempered piano by Busoni, if you look at the etudes of Chopin, that's all artistic research. Completely clear. You have a question, you have a research, and you have a result, an artistic result even. Yeah. So not only a kind of theoretical writing, but you have an artistical result. The etudes are even pieces that, even new pieces, because of artistic questions. So, well, now it becomes more prominent because of Bologna. So it has to be ordered, and it has to be well defined, and you have to put points to several things. And it's hard to do this. It's very difficult. Because that's why there are huge discussions. Because some people say, yeah, we should give points for this, and others say, no, that's not research. So, sure. And also we have a translation problem in Germany because Forschung is much more serious than research. Rechercher, or in French or something, it means like okay, you look for something, you check it out, and it comes from the English research. So even a journalist does a Recherche in German. So it's much more open-minded, and it doesn't have this methodological strength. So that's a discussion at the moment. That's what I think it's very inspiring, and I think a lot of people are doing research anyway. But what are you doing if you're looking for how to use the fingers in a certain piano piece? It's and research.
You always look for a method in the end.
You research a good body thing. Well, you have the body embedded thing with a huge difference to the normal research. The body relation in dance and acting and in music also. So there's a huge field. It's open, and there's a lot to do, I think.
But do you think academia is necessarily like, how to put this, sort of like the foundation of artistic research? Or, you know, like, because from my perspective, it's like there's so many things that like occur outside of academia regarding research, but then might not necessarily make it into the classroom, you know?
No, that's not, I have no idea about this. Schoenberg was no musician, Xenakis was no musician, so there are a lot of people who made great music who have never been formed as musicians, so that's, what do we want, what, it's a question, it's a very special question, what do you want, what do we want if we educate somebody? Should he be a great star? Or should he be somebody who is able to explain something to somebody else or to teach? So they're very different things. Academia is a huge field. And there are a lot of open possibilities, a lot of different approaches, a lot of different teachers. So, yes.
Well, art is going on all kinds of levels, that's for sure. It's only that we find this tendency of verbalizing more in the academic field, so I would say. So that's why artistic research became such a big term, you know. But for sure, it's going on. Every DJ was doing this, you know.
Right.
And at the same time, we all know if there's something new in art, it takes a lot of time, and then you will find it at the university. A couple of years ago, let's say 70, if one would say to you, I want to be a professor for saxophone at the university, you would say, what? 70 years ago. It's like, you want to go to university with your, you know, you know, because why should there, you know, and nowadays it's like, well, professorships for DJing, for example, you know. So, but this is all part of the process, and so I'm very happy to see that, you know, people like you every day, you know, trying to change a little bit of the routines. But I think that was the reason why we actually chose this very big term. Just sometimes a lot of stuff is just hidden behind these words, you know, what they really mean. Maybe I don't know how much time we have still.
10 minutes.
10? Or so maybe Verena, you probably can tell us a little bit about what you're doing together with these record players, turntables, and how this happened. Or just like that we have an idea of how your research is actually going on stage.
Actually, we have 16 turntables and 16 records, translucent records. We all let them press, so they are
produced.
Yeah, produced for us. And each record, there are 13 records pressed with or produced with music or sound. It's more sound, I would say,
right.
And 3 voice records with our own voices.
All right.
So, and what we are actually going to do is we start putting on those records, and the sound starts to like leading us through this field. We are listening to us. We don't speak to each other. We don't like really look to each other, but we listen very, very carefully to each other. And there are rules in a certain kind of way, but then there are no rules.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you say that this is a different way of communication to the way you were performing before, or you were doing art before? So you're saying there are rules, but you go into this field and you put on records, and then you're listening to each other. So this is you're not talking.
No. First of all, in theater, nobody's listening to each other. When you have a dialogue,
but they talk on stage.
Yeah, but nobody's listening, or not nobody, but very, very few actors are really listening to each other. You just wait for your keyword and then it's your turn.
Okay.
So this is, first of all, the big difference. In this, I think in this piece, you really need to listen to each other. If you don't listen to each other, it collapses. We take a high risk, but voluntarily. And we enjoy it, I think. It's so interesting to like be driven through this field, not because you want to go or you decide to go. The sound makes you like moving, and this is a very, very interesting way of interacting with each other as well. So yes, this is a very, very different way of being on stage, I would say. I wouldn't even say of performing. I don't see myself as a performer there on stage. The performers are clearly the turntables and the sound. These are the performers. They are the main actors, and we are just like they just need us in a way to like being heard because we like put them on.
So you help the instruments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they lead us. They lead us. Would you say? Would you agree on this?
I would agree. Yeah.
So it's a combination of all kinds of media. That's it's like, but it's actually controlled by the materiality and the presence of the objects. Is it right?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And it's so much fun to give away this control.
Yeah, because that's when Reinhold was talking about this inside piano, I had the feeling, okay, it's kind of site specific, inside, and sometimes things are happening, sometimes not. It's seems to be similar to what's happening to you.
No.
It's not?
My piano doesn't want to say anything.
Okay.
I'm clearly the performer.
All right.
I don't understand it because the record player doesn't want to say anything. He doesn't want to. You say that's the performer, but it's not performing. You have to act with it. Perhaps there's a feedback situation, but you are included and you are changing it. So you're performing.
That's what I said.
I'm performing. If I don't perform, the piano is there. I'm here, and there's nothing happening, which is a poor performance.
Yeah, well,
but not music first.
Well. No, there's a famous piece where nothing is happening at the piano, and there's but
so.
Yeah, but for me it's like that. Maybe for you it's different, but for me it's like that. I actually I'm really interested in to give the focus on totally something else. As I said, of course the instrument needs my help. It needs to be like played. I need to put it on, but I can step back, and I can let like this sound really becoming a performer. It's the way I see it, and it's the way I actually approach this piece, and I think you too.
Yeah, I think specifically for this performance, there's several nuances with terminology regarding performer and the instrument, and I guess this could be said in several different things, but like a garbage truck could be an instrument, or it could be the performer, and then the garbage man could be either of these things. I guess it just really depends on how you look at things. Maybe, but specifically for your piece, like you have your function, like this is the role that you chose, and that's how it remains.
Well, the discussion is too big, I think.
Yeah. But I'm happy that we came to this point, because now we are again in this terminology trap. But everyone is actually doing a thing, but how to describe it, how to get it into words out of a practice. This is probably kind of this research process. And I feel this is highly interested in going on. I'm looking forward to being all of your performances tonight as a guest and a listener. And I think that's a very good point where we could actually wish you all good luck and thank you again. Again to Fasil. It's a pleasure being here. Very strange things are going on in this world at the moment, and we only took off the masks for this interview. We're going to wear them in a couple of seconds again, and everyone will be hopefully safe. And thank you to everyone, and have a nice festival.
Thank you, Gerriet.
Thank you.
Pelo ribeiro